Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Hope you are all doing well. Here I am on a day that I'm not usually live, but since I wasn't able to do Tuesday night, I thought, got all the stuff prepped. I'm all ready to go. Let's jump on a Friday. So, hope everyone is doing well. Please do drop a note in the comments. Make sure, let me know that you can hear me, that you can see me okay. Hello, Sandra. Hopefully, there's some other people joining in. We have some fun stuff to share with you today. Stencils are one of my favorite tools to use. And so I've got a couple of different ways that you can use stencils to really make them be I've called it a focal point. I'm not sure if that's truly what I'm going to achieve today, but want to make sure that there is something that is that you use the stencil for that's really going to shine and jump out at you on your project. Now, of course, I am going to be doing cards today. Small format is always easiest on a demo like this. But you can everything I show you today, you can do on layouts. You can do on TN pages. You can do in your planner or your journal. You can do on large format, maybe big canvases, that kind of thing. So we're going to actually try, if all goes well, we're going to get three different approaches taken care of today. And if nothing else, we're going to have lots and lots of fun. So let me just switch my camera. I am flying solo today. So if you have a question, I do have the comments up there. But if you can type the word question in great big capital letters, that'll make it a little bit easier for me to see on the screen. And there is always a little bit of a delay, so don't worry if I don't answer your question right away. I will get to it, and if somehow I miss it altogether, I'll come back after the live and answer those questions for you. I think that's it. Let's just dig in. I don't know if you are at work, if you are catching me on your lunch hour, if you're catching me on replay, regardless of where and when you're tuning in from. Thank you for joining me today and spending a little bit of time with me. All right, I'm going to switch over to my other camera. There we go. I just have my little tiny work surface here because I am going to be pulling out my waffle flower grip mat. Now, I'm going to warn you off the top, and I will repeat as we go along. I am using an older grip mat. The size that I have is no longer available, but it still works well. So we're gonna play with it, and we can talk about that as we go along. So, like I said, we are going to be taking three different approaches to how you're going to use your stencil, and of course, a lot of it depends on how your stencil was constructed. So, the very first technique we're going to do, or the first thing we're going to use, let me dig all this stuff out of my little bin here, is a stencil from Waffle Flower, and there's a part of a series called Overlapping. Does this one? I don't think it even has a picture on the back. I just know in my head what we're going for. But what it has is it is a stencil. This one is for Mary. I'm gonna dig into the Christmas here, but there are a few different options as well. So you do the M, the R, and the Y in the first pass, and then you do the E and the second R in the second pass. And yeah, you really can't see that here on the stencil, but it'll all become clear. And so when you're done, all the letters are going to overlap each other and do some fun things. So I've pulled out some Hero Arts inks here. I've got a range of colors. There is also a coordinating stamp that goes with it, though I'm realizing now I didn't grab any black ink. Good thing it's right behind me. Hello, Chris. Thank you for tuning in today. Like I said, the other ones that we have in stock, we have a happy and we have a hello as well that all work the same way, and we may have a few others as well. This is a great series, and they are really fun and versatile to work with. Now, what I have done is I have kind of planned ahead. I spelled out the word Mary, and I have figured out my colors. So I'm going to do a red, a yellow, a green, and then the teal, and then I've got a different red, a lighter red that we're going to use here on the Y. So let's just dig in. This is just going to be straight stenciling to start with. I'll show you some extra little tips and tricks as well. And Woohoo! Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. All right, get things out of the way. This is my kind of where I'm going to end up. I've got this teal background. It is Spellbinders cardstock. It is teal topaz. Color wheel, such gorgeous, gorgeous colors. You really can't go wrong, but I thought it went really well with that Aegean blue ink pad. All right, let's get my grip mat out here. It's amazing how you can have a great big desk and still not have enough space. But I guess part of that is trying to stay on camera. And I should have done this ahead of time. This cover is always tricky to pull off. Come on. That's a good thing, though. It means that your grip mat is being protected. Heather says, great video. I tend not to buy stencils as I'm not very good with them. Well, as everything, Heather, here, let me pop that comment up here. Everything comes with practice. And so if you take nothing else away from today, it's pull out one stencil that you have in your stash and just play with it and see what it will do. See what different things you can do with it. I find that stencils create lots of great texture and dimension for backgrounds. And that's why I'm even challenging myself to do this as focal points, because I tend to go for backgrounds. I use it a lot in backgrounds and kind of to emphasize something else. Today, I want to make this the focal point. So as I said, I'm using a waffle flower grip mat. This is I think it's actually 2 versions ago mat that they have created, and they keep coming out with new and different ways that they sell it. So mine is an 8x8. It is bigger. I apologize, I don't know the sizes that exist right now. I think there's a 6.5 by an 8.5, and there might be a bigger one. And they now come with this black piece of acetate that goes behind. And that is really just to help you be able to see better what you are working on. But the mat itself is clear, so it would be very similar to what I have here. I also have a teeny tiny one, a 4x4 over here, because that's where I put my inks. And that way they don't wiggle and move, because often I'm kind of holding my stencil, even though it's in place here, holding my things in place. I've got my blending tool over here. And if I need a third hand to hold my inks in place, that is not always possible. I have just cut a piece of smooth white cardstock. I think this is the Solar White from Prism Studios. It's what I would use to color on. It's what I would use to stamp on. It's just a nice light, well, not lightweight. I think it's 80 pounds. So it's your standard weight. But when you're layering on cards, you don't need a ton of layers. So I've got a nice easy piece here, and then I just die cut it out with one of the Spellbinders nesting dies. I believe this is the Emerald Cut is what it's called. So I'm going to just stencil right here onto my paper. And you know what? That's the best thing about stencils, is that really all you're using is ink and paper. So it's really affordable for you to play around. And if you make a boo-boo, you can always go back and start again. So here on the stencil, that now you can see it a little bit better that it's out of its packaging. We've got the MRY and the ER down here. Now what you may not see, maybe it'll show if I put it on the teal here. There are little etched lines as well that will help us to line things up when we start moving things around from layer 1 until layer 2. And then it also has some etched lines down the side that if you are doing an A2 panel, then that should line up perfectly. Now, ours is not an A2 panel because I've already die cut it. If you're not sure, you are welcome to stencil first and die cut afterwards. I just wanted to have my die cut machine put away for today, so that's why I did my die cutting ahead of time. Now, the nice thing about that grip mat is I can now position this where I want it. Oops, and see it's already stuck. I'm going to go a little bit higher than center because I do have that stamp set that I want to put underneath. Maybe I should plan that first. Good Mary. Yeah, I guess Mary is always going to be first, regardless of which sentiment I put here. So I do want that Mary a little bit higher than center so that I've got room to put my room to put my stamp sentiment underneath. Then once I've got it where I want it, and I truly am eyeballing, you could get out your ruler to make sure it's nice and straight if you wish. But I haven't done that. If you've got your grip mat on a so I've just got this on a glass cutting board that I got from the kitchen store. That way I keep it on here. I use my good glass mat for all my other stuff. And I personally don't like taking it on or taking it off, putting it on, taking it off, putting it on. So I just keep, this is my glass, or this is my stenciling kind of tool as a whole. But I can see my grid paper underneath, so I could have used that to line things up. All that to say, if your team eyeball, go for it. If your team measure, also go for it. So I've got this kind of stuck down here using that grip mat. So now you can see it's not moving a smidge. If I were simply going to color all three of these colors the same color of ink, I could really just go to town. But Waffle Flower has also come out with a unique tool called masking corners. And this is what it looks like. I haven't taken it apart yet. I deliberately left it intact to show you how it comes. And it has these two little L-shaped, here, let me get that to you. L-shaped pieces with a little square in the middle. And this again, this is to help you kind of block the different areas so you don't get ink where you don't want it. Now, if you are just starting out with stenciling and you don't necessarily want to invest in a tool like this, you could use Post-it notes or just some printer paper. But what I'm doing is I'm now putting this tool down here to the left of the M. And I'm going to take the other L. I don't need the little centerpiece for now, but do keep it because you could, if I wanted to, it's a little bit big for that, but I can use it to mask in other areas. I'm just using the L's for right now. Where am I going to stick? I'm going to put this over here on my magnetic board so I don't lose it. And then I'm going to take this other corner, and because now it's separate, I can scooch it down so it's just the right size. And this piece is a little bit loose when it overlaps. Oh, see, even that's still sticking. Let me bring it up a little bit closer. So now you see that L, those two L's, have just protected my M so I don't get ink anywhere that I don't want it. Now, like I said, this has a little bit of a flap, and just for safety, just for my own peace of mind, I'm just going to take a little bit of yellow tape and stick it there just so it's going to stay. Maybe I'll get that little corner as well. I'm more worried about that right side because I'm right-handed, so I tend to move to the right. The left side shouldn't be too bad, but there we go. So ink blending, easy peasy. The best recommendation I can give for any kind of ink blending is to start light and then add more ink to build depth. You do not have to go in. You do not have to push down hard. You do not need to get in there with your elbows and your knees. You just want some nice ink coverage on your brush. And then I'm going to start over here off the area where I'm stenciling. And I'm just going to fill this in a circular motion. So there you can see I've got it pretty light. If I want some darker color, I can now go in and build up depth. And once you get really accomplished, really well practiced with ink blending through a stencil, you can also build in shading with a single color. But right now we're just going nice and easy straight across. And you see how my ink pad, oh, I got ink on my finger. Ink pad didn't move. I could keep my hands. I didn't have to be reaching across. And there we go. Now, because we are switching colors, where did my lid go? It's over here. Because we are switching colors, I do want to wipe this down. So I just keep a microfiber cloth near my desk. For quick changes like this, all I need to do is wipe it down. Now, let me tell you, it is much, much easier to clean this while your stencil is in place than to take it off. because this way, even if the ink goes onto the paper, guess what? It's the same color. The ink is already in there, so I don't have to worry about getting ink where I don't want it. The other thing you can do, and this would be a case where you would take it off, is you can have a little bit of alcohol in a bottle, a little bit of rubbing alcohol in a little spritz bottle. Alcohol dries much faster than water. So if you do need to quickly change colors, a spritz with alcohol and a quick wipe with a paper towel will get you stenciling onto the next layer much faster than if you use a baby wipe. I have used baby wipes in the past. They then get all wet and their stencil is wet. And even if you try, it takes longer to dry. So that alcohol tip was a game changer for me. All right, now I think most of these letters are about the same size. So I'm trying to keep this guide the same size and keep it all at once. So now I can just do this. So let's put that R on here. Our R is standing out. Whoops. And doesn't worry if it's straight because we're really just protecting areas. All right. Now where's my little cheat sheet? My little cheat sheet says that the first R is going to be green. So let me grab my fresh lawn from Hero Arts. Put it here, get my green ink blending brush. And we're going to do the same thing. Nice and light to start with. You can go, I do recommend going in both directions because even though these are, stencils are very, very thin, there is still that little bit of dimension. So going in both directions helps you get into all the nooks and crannies. All right, that's looking pretty good. And that was pretty easy, pretty easy. Okay, I'm keeping my inks. I don't know if you can see it off camera here. My screen seems to be glitching. Hopefully it's okay for you guys. Keeping my inks in the order, but I also have that cheat sheet to help me. Let's clean off the ink. And we'll move on to our last color, which is that lighter red, this cherry red. Now, the next decision I have to make is one that I do struggle with a little bit. You, in theory, can use the same blending brush for the same color family. So in theory, I could use this red, even though I used it on the darker red. When we go to the lighter red, I can use it. Or you can go ahead and switch. If you have a brush for every single ink, you're going to have like 5 million brushes, which is also, kind of one of those problems that I have. Or what you can simply do is take a paper towel. I'm just going to see if I can get as much of that dark ink out of there. It's mostly coming clean now, so it's not going to affect my lighter colors. If I'm going light to dark, I don't worry about it. It's more when you've gone dark to light. I probably should have planned that a little bit better. There we go. That should be pretty good. All right. So now I'm going with that cherry ink. Thank you, Chris, for saying all's good there. Glad to hear it. All right. Now I'm going to go in here. So this one does have a little bit more of that paler red color. And see if I can get some good coverage in there. All right. One more pass. There we go. So cherry's going to go away. Grab my cloth, wipe it down. And our first layer of this stencil is now complete. So I can take this off. And voila, we've got Murray. Murray's starting to take form here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this stencil off. Look how beautiful that is. Everything has been protected. We've got all those different colors happening. and everything is great. So now I have to go to layer number 2, which is right on the same stencil, which makes it so much easier. And again, I've got those etched lines. So I'm going to line up my M, line up my Y, and if the two end ones line up, then everything else should line up as well. Push that down into place. Again, this one's a little floating because it's right on top of the paper. If you feel the need, you can put a little bit of tape on that. But because I'm using this masking template as well, I'm not too worried about that. So here we go on the E. According to my chart, E is yellow, so that's spicy mustard. Now this one, for whatever reason, I don't have a yellow brush. I guess yellow is not, well, it's twofold. Yellow is not a color that I obviously stencil with very much. Or sometimes when I've got my brushes too close together, the yellow one gets, knocked up against, say, a green one, and I get transfer of ink. But that's okay. Sometimes nice new brushes are always good. So let's ink this up, get some nice yellow in there, and here we go again. Just coloring in that area. So Heather is asking, does the template come with the Mary stencil? No, Heather, it is a separate purchase because there's a whole series of these overlapping words. But in that overlapping series, you do get the stencil. So the Mary stencil and the Mary die come together as one bundle. The masking template is something that is separate. Here, let me just... So Mary's asking, does the template come with the Mary stencil? The masking template does not. It is something that is separate. But when you buy the Mary stencil, you also get the Mary die. That way, if you buy a number of these overlapping stencils, you only need one template. You don't need multiple templates. So you can just have that as something that is in your stash. Few more people joining in. Thank you for joining me on this Friday at lunchtime. All right, so there is my yellow. Again, clean it off before I move the stencil. So all the extra ink kind of goes into the opening. And now I can switch down to the last R, mask that off. Put my yellow brush away, grab my teal brush, grab my Aegean, pop that open. Oh, that does not look like the color it's supposed to look like. Let's see. Yeah. I guess I'm not using Aegean. That does not look right at all. I will have to give my friends at Hero a call. What other colors do I have? Okay, yes, we'll try Bermuda. How does Bermuda look? Much better, much better. When in doubt, if something doesn't look right, always test it before you pop it on your project. All right, so let's ink up my brush. And here we go into our last letter. Ooh, that's beautiful. And I think it's still going to match with our paper, so I'm not too worried about that. So there we go. There are our 4 letters. Oh, I forgot to clean it. Let's clean it first. Whoops. And then what I will do when we are, when I'm done crafting, when I'm putting everything away for the day, I will take these to the sink. I've got a sink right next door to me in our laundry room, and I will run them under the tap. And that way, any last little remnants of ink that may be on here will get washed away. Leave them to dry on like a paper towel, or I've got one of those bottle racks. Remember back in the day when you had babies and you had a baby bottle drying rack? I just kind of stick it in there to dry, and then I put everything away. So that was using the masking corners. here we're going to pull this stencil up. I'm not going to let this go too far away because I'm going to show you one more thing you can do with this kind of stencil before we move on. But look at that. Look at how cool that looks. And it's nice and clean, even any boo-boos you got on the stencil, not on the paper. And so it's good to go. Now, one last so let me do my stamp. Let's do Merry and Bright, just to finish that off. Let me grab a block, a blockety block, and my ink. Oh, you know what? Hang on. I've got a little mini Hero Intensified Black that I've been dying to try. I have not tried the Intensified Black before. Will everything fit? No, and Bright will fit. So let's give that a try. 100%, I could throw this in my Misty, but just one more thing to get out. So my stamp is just a little bit longer than my block, so I'm going to put it on a jaunty angle. And then I can ink that up. I'm actually going to, excuse my head if I get in the camera, I'm going to come up and actually overlap the overlap, which is kind of a cool technique. I'm not sure that I got it straight, and it's not super intense, so maybe I should have used my Misty, but you get the idea. So there you go. So one last thing you can do, and you can use your stencil for this, or you can freehand if you feel brave. So I'm going to go back and line up my first layer here. Get it all right. This is where I can take a white gel pen and add a little bit more detail. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do left and bottom on every single piece here. So I'm just going to go left and bottom, left and bottom. Don't push too hard because the delicate bits may move on you. So go really gently. So because that one's overlapping, I'm going to stick here and then here. And you just kind of have to use your best judgment. Let's do the second layer, get it back into place. And here I will do my E, just adding some detail left and bottom. And so now I've just added that little bit of white detail on each letter. I'm not sure if it's translating well on the camera, but by using the stencil, you know you've got some nice straight lines. Rosalind said, it reminds me of the rainbow fruity candy canes. Oh yes, that totally is what it looks like. So there, that is approach number one. So really all you need is that sentiment. You need those words. And then you can go ahead and pop it onto your card base. Maybe you would take this and put it through an embossing folder. I'd probably go in and add some gems, especially at Christmas time. I love some good gems. But that's a really easy way to just have that as your focal point, have your stencils, is use something that is designed specifically for being a focal point, like a sentiment. So that's number one. Number two, we're going to do masking, but in a slightly different way. Let me clean my space and get on to the next one. We are going to do some candy canes. So this is from a Hero Arts series about candy canes. This one's called Candy Cane Toss-Up Color Layering Stencils. I happen to get a set in a trade show class, so super excited to crack it open. And hey, maybe I'll go back and finish that trade show project once I'm done here. What else do I need? I've got a piece of white card. It's going to go on long term. It's going to go on this beautiful piece of red Miri card. This is part of the Spellbinders Treasured cardstock packs you get. Do I have the cover sheet here? I have a different color I can show you. Hang on. So this is the aquamarine, but you get 5 different finishes. So there's a glitter, there's a matte metallic, a brushed metallic, a mirror metallic, and more of a pearlescent. You get 3 of each sheet, so of those 5, so you get 15 sheets in total. But it's, you know, especially at this time of year when bling is the thing, these packs really go a nice long way. So I'm going to use a piece of red. That's out of the, is it called Ruby or is it called, I think it's called Ruby. Sorry, names are just not sticking with me today. All right, so this one is also a 3-layer stencil. This one, if you look on the pictures here, there is a solid layer, then there are some fat stripes, and there are some skinny stripes. So 2 things I'm going to show you with this technique is we're going to do some masking with tape. What we're going to do is we are going to create our stencil, but we're going to put some tape down so that our candy canes are just going as a stripe down the center. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to dig out my embossing powder. This is Ranger Superfine White. For some reason, I couldn't find my big jar, which looks like this, except this one is clear. But I'm pretty sure that this one is white. So when we do the white candy cane stripes, we're going to use embossing powder. All right, so I've got my 3 stencils here. One thing that Hero does with their layering stencils, and that's where these little cheats came into play. I'm gonna have to move them around. Where's my teal? In the corners of their stencils, they have these little squares. And what you're meant to do is you're meant to color or use a pen or something like that to mark those squares. So every time you go back and layer up your stencil, all you have to do is match your corners. Now, something like these candy canes where the shape is going to stay the same, it's not so hard to kind of eyeball it, get it to line up. But I have done ones with them that are flowers and things. So one layer might be one set of petals. The other layer might be the leaves. So you're not actually matching and lining. And those little marks are a godsend. Now, the problem with working on a grit mat, though, is you've got nothing to color in. So I've just got these little pieces of cardstock that I have lined up. They will stick to my mat. Since I've already got holes marked, I will try to use them if I can. And we'll go from there. So let me mask first. That's important. I got to do that first. So I'm using my wider Spellbinders Best Ever Craft tape because I'm going to do a whole strip, line it up with that left hand edge, and tear. And then I'm going to do it on the other side. So that's not going to give me a very wide. So let me come a little bit. Maybe I'll switch to the narrow. Now that I've got this one pulled off. It's okay. I always use it. I've got a whole stash of tape and extra foam bits over here on the right of my desk because you got to use it till it no longer sticks. Okay, so let's do the narrower one. Like so. And this is just to, again, this is like those masking corners. This is just protecting our paper. Oh, and see, now I feel like that's too wide. Come on. Sometimes you just overthink a project. So I'm just going to keep going with it. I think if I were to do it again, I might do a second layer, but we're going to go with it. We're going to go with it. And I'm going to start with that solid layer of the stencil. So if I line up that hole, oh, I see this one's got to come a little bit this way. But again, if these were new pieces of paper, I would just mark those holes with a pen or a pencil, or you could just use whatever that first color of ink that you're doing. you can mark your holes. And if you wanted to do the bottom ones, you could. I'm generally pretty confident that if I get the top two set, then I'm good. Okay, I'm going to stick with the crimson for my darker layer, but I felt like on the Mary, these were too close together. So let me go one shade lighter. Or maybe so this is the one shade lighter. Is it too, oh, it's actually not too pink. So if I do that, still not enough contrast. Okay, I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to really split it. So cranberry is going to be my darker one. Pale tomato is going to be my lighter one. The lighter one is going to give us our shape. Let me, once again, just give my red a little bit of a clean. And just like before, I'm just going to circular motion starting off the project, building in and covering the whole area. And really, this is just giving us our shape, our foundation. But masking it off means that I have a protected area down the sides. So it's going to create that stripe in the center. You don't have to feel you are constrained to the size of the stencil. And you know what? You can keep going as long as you want until you've built up the color, the level of color intensity that you like. Okay, this is just base, so I'm not going to do too much more. That was pale tomato. Give it a wipey wipey. And stencil one can be lifted and removed. Now, I did not pay attention to this, so it looks like what I've actually done is actually two things wrong. First of all, I have the bottom at the top, and I actually had it face down instead of face up. One thing you should always check, Hero and most brands will put like a logo or something in one corner and the layer of stencil, in the other corner. So if you've got stencil 1, stencil 2, stencil 3. All I have to remember is that I'm going to put it the right way, and then I'm going to flip it to make sure that all of those stencils are in the right area. Mistakes happen, folks, but it is not the end of the world. All right, so here, let me look. Okay, so I've got my Hero Arts here. I've got layer 2 here. I'm going to flip, and then I'm going to line up my dots. And then, you know what? Always give it a check, because sometimes even the best tools don't always line up. So now I've just done a double check. I see that everything here is going to match up, so I can get ready for number 2. Okay, using the same brush. Now I'm just going to go in, and this is only going to get those stripy areas. And this is gonna look awesome. With the dark, I do want some more intensity. My natural inclination is to push harder, and I actually find that it doesn't work as well as you think it would. So try not to give yourself a total workout. You don't need to push hard. You don't need your elbows and knees in there. Simply go over it, over and over. Too many overs. Build your intensity by building layers, not by building pressure. And if you really feel like your wrist and your arm is hurting, you're pushing too hard, then maybe you just need to go to a darker color ink to get the intensity that you're looking for. All right, I think that's pretty good. Grab a little sip of water there. clean it off. There we go. And woohoo! Oh, that looks really awesome. Now, in reality, you could 100% leave that as it is, but I'm going to do that third layer. Sharon is saying she remembers the stencil from Craft Around last year. It's actually very similar. Oh, and you know what? Look what I did. I didn't even realize that I did this. I guess the stencil ends at a certain area, so I probably should have shifted my stencil up a little bit more. I know I had room down the bottom, so I have a natural white line up there. That's okay. I can just trim that. Anyway, Sharon, there was a Lawn Fawn one that is very similar. That was last year. This year's is one from Hero Arts. But if you've got the one from last year, the absolutely same techniques are going to apply. All right, and now I need my detail. So here we go. This one's got the finer openings for the stripes, and this is where we're going to use embossing powder. So I've got my Hero Arts at the bottom, layer 3 over here. Because I did it wrong, I'm flipping it upside down, lining it up, and pressing it down. So you can do this next layer with embossing ink. I am actually going to use a white ink and then put the white embossing powder on top. And for this one, I am going to recommend that you use a foam ink blender as opposed to a brush. The white is a pigment ink, so it's a little bit thicker. It would really gum up the bristles on your brush, so a foam blending tool is much easier. And instead of the circling, we're actually going to push. Make sure that it's going in there. We're going to push it into those openings. Dab, dab, dab. Cover the whole area. These are very thin, so kind of go in the direction of the stripes. Once you get lots of ink on there, you can really smoosh that in because we want it to be wet and grab the embossing powder when we sprinkle it on there. If you try to do too much of a circular motion, even though they are a very thin opening, you could get a little bit of bleeding and you could get white where you don't want it. And if you're not sure, I'm just kind of wondering, is this actually working? Yeah, it's very faint, but it is working. The other thing you could do is if you did not want to do the embossing powder is you could do a white paste through these openings. All right. I'm struggling to see this. And sometimes, you know, as much as you think it's going to work, especially on camera, it doesn't always work. I know I said don't go into circular motion. I'm going to try and see if I can get some better coverage in here. Anyways, you get the idea. And maybe this one was just not the greatest choice of stencil. But let's move on. So there we go. This one I'm not going to use my microfiber cloth simply because I want to keep that for regular ink, not for the there we go. We've got a few that have turned out here, so you'll get the idea. This one I definitely will want to take to the tap and rinse off afterwards. So I'm going to keep that one separate. And now what we're going to do is remove. We can remove the whole tape because we're on our last layer. Oh, and look, my tape stuck. Wow, this one just is not my friend today. That's okay. It's a teachable moment, right, guys? And look, I've gone almost an hour already and I still have one more technique to show you. All right. My tape was not my friend. My ink was not my friend. But you guys will learn something. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to actually take my glass mat and put it way out of the way. Because if your grip mat gets the embossing powder on it, it is really hard to clean it off. I thought I had a piece of paper. There it is. My little embossing powder funnel. Got a few here that it turned out well, so let's just sprinkle it on. Go for broke. Dump it all out. Do. And then I'm going to give it a little flick from behind. Okay, and then let's put this away. Make sure nothing goes flying. Oh, thank you, Sharon. Sharon says, I appreciate your efforts and your lessons. Sometimes it's just to do as I say, not as I do. Bear with me. This is going to be a little noisy. There it goes. All right. So now you can see those white candy cane marks. Some of them definitely turned out better than others. But this is where you could either go back in with your white gel pen, you could give it another try, or you could just learn from my mistake and try something else. So that is technique number 2. Really, all I'd like you to take away from this, 2 things. You can always create stripes by using your tape. Make sure it's not super sticky. I think I should have de-stuck my tape a little bit, or you could use, masking sheets or something. And think about your embossing ink or your white ink. You don't always have to just use ink or just use paste. Embossing is also an option. Sandra is asking, what is the size of the small grip? The small grip one I have is a 4x4. Again, I'd have to double check if that's still in the lineup. I think it is. I think they still have the little one, but it is a 4x4, and that is just helping me hold that ink into place. All right, you guys, if you're okay to stick around with me, I will try to get through this next one super quick. So if you are on your lunch break, you can get back to work. We're going to use some paste. We're going to use some masking paper. Yeah, so I'm not going to waste my mirror card. I'm going to redo this guy, and what I can do is redo him and post it to show you what that looks like in the end. All right, so the next one. I'm going to use this Gradual Dots stencil from Christina Werner. I have some blue cardstock. This is Windy. Yes, this is Windy. That is the color of cardstock that I'm using. And I'm going to be using shades of blue on this one. But we're going to do it. We're going to take this one in a different twist. Now I can bring my mat back. That powder has gone away. I'm going to stick this into place. There's a little bit of red on here. I'll just be careful. Move it up here. Okay. So what I have done is Spellblenders has a product called masking paper, and it's It's this size here, so it's a little bit bigger than an A2 panel. Depending on how you cut it, like I've used it and cut it into strips. I've used die cut shapes and that kind of thing. And that's what we're going to do today. So I have used this Essential Stars die to cut my masking paper. Come on. Using the die. Keep the piece that you cut out, because you could do a reverse stencil where you put the star down and stencil all around it. Or what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use this piece here and just stencil inside the shape. So let me, hardest part is getting the liner sheet off. Especially when you're trying to rush. There we go. So it does have a papery finish, but it's got a low tack adhesive on it. So it's on this side, that white side. With my die cut being really close to the edge, I'm just going to be really careful. But if it tears, this is not going to be part of our finished artwork. So you could always just piece it back together. And this is reusable, so you could do 2 or 3 cards using the same piece of masking paper. So let me do this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little scrap here and put it underneath at the bottom so that I'm able to peel it up when I'm done. And I didn't cut my piece all the way to the top because I was trying to be frugal. So what I will do is, I've got a strip here as well. We'll just add that extra layer on the top, because knowing me, I will stencil where I don't want it stenciled. Come on, you stubborn little pieces of paper. There we go. And again, I'm actually going to overlap it a little bit so it's a little bit easier to get off. Okay. So this gradual dot stencil, it's kind of neat because what it does is there's one stencil here that is, oh, Darlene put the link for the 4x4 grip mat in the chat there. So thank you, Darlene. Sandra, you are on YouTube, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to get it. But we'll make sure, if you just go to our website and search 4x4 grip mat, you should be able to find it. Thank you, Darlene. All right, so this one here, it's got the gradual dots where it goes from big dots to small dots, but there's a landscape version and then there is a portrait version. For what I'm doing, both versions will work. I'm going to stick with the portrait version just so I can kind of manipulate it around. Yeah, I think if I go too big, it's going to get tricky. So I'm going to do this. And that way this all sticks around. I'm going to use the Simon Hurley blending brush this time because I want to cover a lot of area really quickly. Yeah, but I have to do one step first. So I've got a lighter blue. This is Stonewash Blue. I'm just going to do it over the whole star so it kind of gives us a base. So, and it won't look like much right now, but when it comes off, it'll at least give us that outline of where the star is supposed to live. And I don't need total full coverage. I just need those outside edges. All right, so that was Stonewash. Now I'm going to come back to Nautical. I'm going to put my stars into place, or sorry, my dots into place. Stick it all down. And go in with this darker blue. And this is going to give me my polka dots, but only in that star area. All right. Here's my lid. Give it a wipe. And it's okay that it's showing up on that masking paper because we're going to clean that off. All right. So here's the magic of this stencil, at least in my opinion. I've got my big dots there. I'm going to take this and I'm actually going to flip it around the other way to add smaller dots. Now I don't want them matching up and being all lined up here. So maybe I'll even go maybe I'll switch. In theory, you can use the same one, but I want, no, let's go back. Sorry, guys. Let's go this way. So I'm doing it upside down so that all my dots are all different sizes. And they're not going to line up, and that's totally okay. I really just want this for texture and for pattern. Why are you sticking? There we go. Stick, sticky, stick. And this time I'm going to use paste. So this is Simon Hurley Lunar Paste Breakup Blue. Get that out of the way. Oh, that lid was not on very tight. And just scoop it through. So using this masking paper, much like when we were using the tape, it just creates that focal point for you. It allows you to create some visual texture without necessarily having to have physical texture. I think I got most of it there. The masking paper is protecting all my surfaces. Trying to find safe places to put everything. So there's number one. This one's going to definitely have to go and get washed. And here we go, guys. Here we go. Ooh, I am so happy. Now with the paste on it, I might not try to use it again. That's going right in the trash. And it looks like I got a little schmutz off the side here, but I can always trim that cardstock down. Ooh, I love that. So using that masking paper definitely gives you that focal point, gives you that targeted area, and makes you hopefully not afraid to use your stencil because you don't want it as an all over pattern. If you want that dramatic hero spotlight moment, that definitely works. So that was using the Spellbinders masking paper. And then I used that stencil. And because of the way that that stencil was designed, I could flip it in the different ways and use the different parts of it on the same project. So thank you for joining me today. We had some successful projects. We had some not so successful projects. And oh, here it is. But you know what? Stencils as a whole are probably one of the most economical craft supplies that we can have in our stash. And there's lots of great basics, as I will call them. You know, look for bricks and cobblestones. Probably those are the two stencils I use the most. Look for polka dots. Look for patterns. And those will give you lots of great things that you can do, and then build your focal points with your masking paper, with your tape. Don't be afraid to use them in limited ways so that you can, and by limited, I mean focused ways. You don't have to only use them for backgrounds. And the absolutely most important thing you can do is play. Get out some paper. Does not have to be your good Spellbinders paper. Could even just be printer paper if you want to just play and see what your stencil does. Just get it out and play. See what it's ink and paper. You can't go wrong. And usually we can turn things into really fantastic projects. And if you can't, well, at least you've learned something. So Here we are right at the top of the hour. Thank you very much. Here, let me switch over to my other camera. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, get out your stencils and play. If you make something fun, if you learn something, please do post it in our Paper Crafts Inner Circle group, because we always love to see what you make. And hopefully we've inspired you to get out your stencils and craft. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and we'll see you next week.